And how did you feel after the game yesterday?
Sore. Like I had anticipated, get hit for a while. Um, you got a lot more bumps and bruises than usual.
You talked about just the elbow, how you weren't sure how it was going to feel until you really got in a game. Could you tell a difference week one this year versus week one a year ago and just how it was feeling?
Yeah, it feels great. That's probably the only part of my body that felt good when I came out of the game. So that's encouraging and positive.
You're able to get everybody a reception, or targets at least. Was it important, like in the first game, to kind of get everybody feeling they're part of this?
I didn't even realize that we did that. I think that's sometimes it's just the way the game unfolds. There's not really a clear intent to say, okay, we got to get this guy a ball or whatever. You like to get guys involved early in games, but that's just kind of typical football. But I'm glad that everyone got involved.
And was your takeaway from the game any different a day or two later watching the film? What did you see that you maybe liked a little more or didn't like a little more?
I thought it looked like, and kind of what I felt out there, it looked like everyone had some jitters, myself included, missed some throws that don't like to miss, that could have been different. I mean, the first third down, or the one to Deontay, the quick one early, the flat to Naj, just some little things that maybe there was some excitement and energy, but I thought as the game progressed, we all kind of settled down a little bit, and we were able to make some things happen. So a lot of what I thought in the game was kind of the reaction after watching it.
And in terms of a team going from being good to great, what do you think it is that helps, or what is it something you can put your finger on that helps the team make that transition?
Time, I think. I think you got to have time. You can't just go from good to great. You've got to really put the work and the time in, and only time will tell if you can be a great football team.
Just getting a win in a hostile environment on the road against a good team, does that help kind of push things along with the young team?
Maybe. I think as a a veteran and some guys that have been around to know kind of what that win meant. Maybe some young guys just like that's you're going to win a game, but to go into that environment like we were talking about how loud it was and hostile, and I guess a really good football team. Guys that have been around understand how, probably more so than young guys, how important that win was.
To kind of help reinforce, like you tell these guys stuff as a veteran guy, but when you go and see the tangible results of all that.
Yeah, I mean, when we were going into that game, we talked about. I mean, for 2 weeks we spent time with the silent count, which is it's annoying. I mean, it's just hard to do, and so we did it. And I think guys sometimes, because from college, I don't know if they do it. They do the claps and all these kind of things, but it's to see your hard work pay off. I think that's good for everybody.
Mike said he was kind of surprised there weren't any first and 15s with that silent count, that the offensive line performed maybe better than expected with those growing pains that you talked about last week, anticipating. How did you see it looking back on film? Was it better than it felt in the moment?
Yeah, I mean it's a good point. We had I think one time Kendrick snapped it on one instead of two, so it kind of caught us off guard. But that's to be expected out of all the plays and all the stuff going on, and it was not a disastrous play. So yeah, at the end of the day, when you don't turn the ball over and you limit pre-snap penalties, that's good.
And what stood out about Max Crosby? What's kind of challenge with him and that Raiders team?
Nothing surprises me because he's from the MAC, and that's where the best football players come from. He's a stud. I mean, you watch what he did. That whole defense, their pass rush, and watching it initially, just watching the game, you don't see a lot of blitzes. It's not like they're doing a lot of crazy things. They're just rushing four guys, and their four rushers are really good. And they count on those four to be disruptive in both the pass and run game, and they let the back end kind of just benefit off of quarterbacks having to get rid of the ball quickly. And they, as you saw, they like to ball search. They get the ball out when they have to from the quarterback.
And yesterday, Mike made it a point to sort of praise the maturation he saw from the receivers, just from an in-game perspective, just from the way they kind of they hung in there when it didn't go. What did you? I mean, how does that manifest itself on the field, even when they're not getting the ball? I mean, how do you see proof that these guys are starting to kind of grow up? And
well, I think each guy did something a little extra special in that game. I think Juju is Juju. He's tough. He's reliable. He's dependable. He does what you ask him to do. He lowers his head on the play and gets you that first down and shows that physicality. I thought Deontay started the game out really well. Got his knee banged pretty bad. I don't know that the old Deontay would have came back in the game and kept playing and making plays for us. I think that showed a lot of growth. James Washington coming in the game like right away, not ready to not ready to play, not expecting to come in to fill in, and catches a ball pretty early on the screen, gets north, gets us big yards. And I thought Chase played like a grown man. I mean, some of his catches down the field, it's either a catch or it's a penalty. And that's what we preach to him all the time, that he should be unstoppable. So you talk about the game early, those guys all want the ball. They all want stats. They all want numbers. It's what every receiver wants. It wasn't happening for anybody because we weren't doing it on offense. At the end of the game, we come back in on that last drive, and I think a lot of people anticipated us running the ball and using clock, and we came out and threw the ball. And if any of those guys would have kind of been pouting or shut it down because they were disappointed or upset they weren't getting the ball, we wouldn't have been able to be successful on that drive. Instead, we used up however many minutes. We took the ball down the field. We kicked a field goal, and each guy contributed on that drive. So to me, that shows the growth and the maturity of these guys, that early on it wasn't going well, but they didn't let it bother them. They were still there at the end of the game when it mattered the most to make the plays. So to me, that's a long-winded of how they've grown a lot.
Ben, specifically going off that with Juju and his evolution, you've seen him his entire career. How much has he evolved from just when you started working with him to where he is now, both on and off the field?
He's growing into a leader more and more. I mean, he's always kind of been a leader in terms of on the football field, in terms of how he plays the game. He's very physical. He's where he's supposed to be. He gets those tough yards, those tough catches. He's dependable. And he's been the older one in that room for a while now, which is crazy because he's still so young. But he just puts in the work, and it pays off.
You guys talked a lot about Tre'Davious White leading up to the game, but you still threw at him with Claypool, Johnson, and Juju at different points in time. Can you talk about just your confidence in your guys to win a big matchup against such a tough opponent?
He's a phenomenal football player, and we respect the heck out of him, just like we do any defensive player we go against. We always respect them. It doesn't mean you have to fear them. I like my guys. I'll take my guys in matchups, and so I have to make good throws, which weren't always the case. But those guys can make me look good on bad throws too. So for the way that my guys played against one of the best defenders in the league, I thought it was awesome.
Have you thought at all what it's going to be like coming out of that tunnel on Sunday? First time?
A little bit, but I don't want to think too much about it because it'd probably be too exciting. So I'm trying to temper my excitement right now.
Mike talked about Najee settling in a little bit. You could see in the second half, felt like he got some of those jitters out of the way. Watching back on film and just noticing playing beside him in game, how did you see him kind of adjust and settle down to the NFL?
Yeah, just like all of us. I mean, we all kind of settled back in, and you never saw panic from him. And so I think we'll continue to just see him to grow and get better every week.
Did you expect him to play all of the offensive snaps?
I expected him to play a lot. I didn't think he'd play all of them, but good for him.